As dads, some days we feel like we have all the answers, and some days we feel like we don't have a clue. If that describes you, you're at the right place. This is the All Pro Dad Podcast. This is the All Pro Dad Podcast. Hey, I'm joined today by Mr. Bobby Lewis.
Hey, what's going on?
And Mr. Jason Hood.
Good morning.
And today is a really big day, you guys.
Oh, yeah.
Today, this is a big topic. And I just want to start by saying we're way over our head.
Yeah.
But the good news is we have consulted some really smart people, right?
You?
No.
Okay.
No, not at all. Hey, Bobby, speaking of very important topics, what is that topic today? What's our question of the week?
Question of the week is, how do I parent in a social media world? Did you realize you were in a social media world?
Kind of.
You noticed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we get going, because we got a lot of stuff to share, I do want to ask you a couple of quiz questions. Pop quiz for you, too.
Okay.
I know you were hoping to get quizzed
Yeah,
early in the morning.
please.
All right, so half of U.S. children have a smartphone by what age?
3.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot younger.
That's a little low, yeah.
I would say 10.
It's a good guess. 11.
Wow.
11. This is according to 2023 Common Sense Media Report. I was combing through it, found some very interesting stuff in there, like this one. 11 to 17-year-old teens in the study using TikTok for an average of how much each day?
I'm going to jump out there with 5 hours and 37 minutes.
It's a little high.
Oh, gosh.
It's a little high.
I'm kind of teasing.
Yeah. This was actually a surprise to me because originally I was like, oh yeah, like hours and hours and hours. 52 minutes. But yeah, it's less than maybe we would have thought, but that's an average.
Give it time.
Yeah, give it time.
Yeah.
Give it time. So for everyone who's using it for 50 minutes a day, there's a kid out there who's using it for hours and hours and hours a day. And then how about this? What percentage of kids under 13 are using TikTok, Snapchat, apps like that?
I feel like
Under 13.
under 13.
Which, by the way, you're not supposed to have an account until you're over 13 based
Right.
on all the rules for
I would
the apps,
say close to 50%.
but 50? What do you say?
60.
68.
Gosh.
68% of kids under 13 are using.
So what you're
TikTok.
saying that restriction's not working.
It isn't working
That
very
is
well.
super surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about
So again,
that?
we got a lot of juvenile delinquent criminal
Yeah.
kids
All
out
you
there.
have to do is click the box that says you're 13. Deal. Yeah, we can do that. So I'm curious for you guys, what was the first social media app that you used?
Post-it notes.
Post-it notes.
Yeah.
That's
We
going way
went
back.
past on- Facebook.
Yeah.
Facebook?
I'm pretty sure I had a MySpace account for like 30 seconds.
Yeah. Me too. And I don't even know why.
Yeah. I don't even remember what I was so confused when I signed up for MySpace. I was like, what am I doing? I don't even know what this is. And then Facebook came along and it made a lot more sense.
I had to find 8 friends. I don't even think that I
you
had
can't
8
do it
friends.
until- yeah.
Well, and you got one for free because
Right.
Tom was in there. Yeah, when you started your MySpace page. And anyone who's like under the age of like 25 was like, what the heck are you
What?
talking about?
Wait, what is a MySpace?
They're
like,
Googling
no
MySpace
idea what you're
right
talking-
now.
Yeah, that's what I ask my
I'm sure it still
parents for all
exists.
the time. I need my space. Yeah,
You need your space?
Yeah.
I think Facebook was probably the true answer for me too, because you had to have a college email
Yep.
address in the beginning, and it came out right around the time I was in college, couple years before that, and so I thought it was cool. Like,
So, your guys' kids are what ages?
13 and under.
Yeah, 13 and 8.
Okay. Do your kids use social media?
No, I hesitate to even say no because the answer is truly kind of. And I say that because just recently, some of the friend group that my daughter has through our church, they all decided they wanted to start a Be Real channel, which I'd never heard of Be Real. It's a newer social media app, I guess. It's actually growing in popularity. But essentially, it's just group chat, and you can share pictures and things of wherever you are and stuff like that. I don't really like it. She actually used it a little bit and decided she didn't really like it either. But the answer is no, but kind of.
So, kind of venturing in a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say we're not doing social media at all
Kids are-
in our house. They don't have phones, and so I think they absorb it through their friends. I think obviously when they're around their friends are using it, and so they're especially my 13-year-old, she will tell me about things that she's seen from her friends. Usually it's innocent, but not directly.
Well, and you said directly, when you asked the question, in my brain, I thought on her own? And the answer for that is no, absolutely not. But we do show her things. Like my wife and I will use social media and oh, here's a fun Instagram video or something. Why don't you watch this?
That's a good point.
So they use it through us, I guess, but they don't use it independently.
Yeah, well, my kids are older, and so yes, their social media. Our youngest one is 14, just turned 14, and so we have restrictions that I'm sure if she got crafty, and she's a crafty girl, that she may be working around, but we have done all that we feel like we can do, and we have some other things to keep her accountable. She can't keep it.
What about your older kids? When did they start using it?
That's a great question. They were older. Our kids were probably the last humans in their school to get a phone, which brought its own challenges. But they started using it, I think, later. My oldest one could care less about it. Still doesn't. But yeah, they started. They've been on it for a while.
Yeah.
So for you guys, do you think social media is mostly a net positive or a net negative? Because there are some positive things about it.
Oh, yeah.
So do you guys think, and we'll dive into some of that in just a minute, but what about you guys? Do you think it's a net positive or net negative?
I think it depends on the consumer. I mean, really, it depends on how you're using and why you're using it, I think. But I think there's a lot of research that shows the negative effects, especially on kids. Their brains are still developing, and so they're trying to find out who they are in the world. And so, if social media is telling them who they are, then that's a problem.
Yeah, my knee-jerk reaction was negative. Like net negative. And I think your point about kids' brains developing is mainly the reason why I say that. I'm an adult. The other day I posted on my Facebook page, just out of sheer curiosity, what do we think about people who curse all the time? No judgment. I was just curious. Like, I got a lot of different kinds of friends from a lot of different backgrounds. I was just wondering, what are your thoughts? Should we be cursing all the time? And it got real ugly real fast. And I'm like, this was not like accusatory. I'm not judging anyone. I'm just genuinely curious. I'm asking some of the people that I know. And for me as an adult, I can just fluff that off. Whatever. Like, you're an adult, you have your opinion, you move on. But for a child whose brain's developing, that could maybe feel more like a personal attack.
Sure.
That I am misunderstood, or, someone's disagreeing with me. That's a problem. I think kids, they're not really, mentally as strong as adults in many cases. And so that would harm them, I think.
Yeah. It's a really quick answer for me, and it's not going to be a popular one. I think it's net negative so much. Just watching kids interact and play differently and act differently and just be more anxious. I mean, all the research is super clear about what technology is doing. So if I could magically make it go away, I would probably do that, but I can't do that. Obviously can't do that. So now we got to talk about how to deal with that. But there are the pros. There's the pros of, kids can stay in touch. I know for me personally, there's people I graduated with, family members that I feel like I've kind of kept up with. I feel like I can know about them. I think it's been a good thing. I think watching the older generation, also watching my parents be on their phones. But for them, I think as they get less and less social and able to be available socially, I'm watching them. So I do think there's some pieces that's good. I think the learning, of course, is there. But what do you guys think the biggest cons are? Or what is the research showing that the biggest cons are?
Well, for me, it's the bullying. And I've used the term cyberbullying, but that's kind of an outdated term in many ways. It's just bullying straight up. Kids feeling empowered behind a keyboard or behind a cell phone. We're not face to face anymore.
Sure.
We're in totally different locations. So I'm kind of emboldened to say what I really want to say. And if it hurts your feelings, who cares? We're not in the same room. It doesn't matter. I think that bullying just takes off. It's jet fuel when you're using social media.
Right.
Also, the lack of knowledge as far as like what's true and what's not anymore. I mean, there's a lot of information out there, and anybody can say anything that they want to say whenever they want to say it, whether it's true or not. And so if you come across something that you're not familiar with or not educated on, you can take some information that comes in and treat it as facts, because the internet's true no matter what you search, right?
Yeah. I think the addictive quality of social media is a huge problem as well. And it's not just a problem for kids, it's a problem for everyone. I mean, check your phone usage at the end of the week. You're like, oh my gosh, I spent X amount of hours looking at Facebook, Instagram, whatever. I mean, it's an addictive thing, and it's made to be addictive. I mean, the companies are wanting you to spend as much time as possible on these apps, so they've figured out a way to just endless scroll, so it never stops. There's no bottom. You just keep going. The commenting on stuff, that gets people engaged, or the liking, or the what. I mean, it's super addictive, and that's a negative in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just the filtering, just the mirror. You're looking at images that aren't real. I'm watching my kids too, especially my daughters. Like, it used to be where if you missed a party, you heard about it on Monday on school, then all of a sudden you don't get invited, and there's all this footage of how you don't, and it's selling.
What you missed out on, yeah.
Oh, and they're already insecure, and they're figuring out who they are, and they're already got negative thoughts in their head. Then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, why didn't I get invited? Why am I not as pretty? Why no? People used to compare themselves physically to who they would see at school, and now they're comparing their images to people all over the world, and it's not even real images of them. It breaks my heart for kids. And one of our friends said to me, don't ever tell your kid that you know what it's like to be them, because we don't. We don't understand the cons that comes into this. Yeah. So I think most people listening are like, yeah, we get the cons. We get it. We're trying to figure it out with our kids. We're trying to figure out when to give it to them. We're trying to figure out how to monitor and put filters and protect our kids. So what's the application?
And I think all those things that you just said and all the things that we just agreed upon, the negatives, are true, but it's not going away. Like, there's a draw to it. There are positives, and the connection and the friendship and the communication is one of the positives, and I think that's something that we can't outrun. I know for me, my kids are at that age where they're very interested, but we haven't kind of given them the green light yet. But their friends are using it. Right. And, so-and-so across the street has a Snapchat, or so-and-so over here has an Instagram account, and they want to be included, just like you said. It's kind of the party thing. But it's not just the party and the events. It's like the day-to-day communication. Right. That connection's what kids are craving, and if you're not giving them a way to connect, they feel isolated.
No, yeah. Great point. My daughter just asked me recently, she was like, so not because I want one, she was asking about a phone, not because I want one, which obviously when she prefaces like that, I'm like, okay, I know you are wanting one. But she was asking me, when did you get your first phone? And I was like, well, college. That's right. so just be prepared. You get to get it in college. But you're right. I'm seeing her. I'm seeing her want to connect with her friends more. She had a friend that just recently moved to Texas, and one of her friends has a phone, and they're still connected, whereas she's not as connected anymore. She's literally writing her letters, and they're not being able to communicate as much. And I'm watching their friendship grow faster than my daughter's friendship with her, and they were tighter. And so part of me is like, man, she wants to continue to pursue that friendship, and she can't because she doesn't have a way to communicate with them.
Well, Stanford University did a study and found essentially that almost all children in the United States have a smartphone by the age of 15. Almost all of them. And whether that's because there's pressure on the parents to provide that communication tool, or whether the parents feel like this is just the right step, I don't know. But that's what they found, that almost everyone by the age of 15, which is kind of freshman, sophomore in high school, they've got a phone. I don't know if have you read The Anxious Generation, this book that's out with Jonathan Haidt? It's like an incredibly popular New York Times best-selling book. It's talking about how kids are super anxious now because they've got this device in their phone. The research is just incredible, and I'm reading through it now. Really interesting book. But one of the things that the author recommends is, if we want to safeguard our children, is delay this phone as long as possible. Not because the phone inherently is bad on its own, but because with the phone is so closely tied to social media, and that actually is something that's harming children. And so if we can kind of divorce the two and just wait as long as possible, that's good. I think his age was 16 is the one he recommended. Hold off till 16.
Right. And it does break my heart for our youngest daughter. Like, she came to us when she was 9, and so we really had to do some rewiring on something or trying. And so we didn't let her have a phone, and it did break my heart for her. Like you were talking about with your daughter, to not have it. So I think we do have to get creative and acknowledge that. If nothing else, let them know that we know. Right. Yeah. That we know what's going on.
Yeah. So a 2021 poll I found said that half of kids between the age of 10 and 12 are using social media. Half. And you're supposed to be 13 to be able to even access these apps, but half of the kids under that age are using them. Now, I don't know if the poll counts half as meaning we sit with mom and dad and watch, or if they're using it independently. I kind of lean to think it's more independently. Like they figured out how to do it. But that's a big number. And I think the thing that scares me the most about social media with my kids in particular is I'm not sure what the purpose is for them to use it. The way I use it is probably going to be a lot different than the way that they use it. I'm mostly just, oh, so-and-so, yeah, I went to high school with him. Oh, it's kind of cool. Look, his kids are cute. And, you know, we keep up that way or whatnot. Whereas I think it is a major communication tool. Like it's a pathway to being cool. It's a pathway to being friends. It's a pathway to making friends. You know, this digital world is one where they've only known it since birth. They don't know anything outside of we have 75 social media apps available. I grew up when we didn't have that. My kids didn't. And so asking them to not use something that's always existed and is normal for them, that's kind of a weird thing for me to do to them.
Right. Dad, one of the things we talked about before this episode is we want to give you some application points. And so we're going to give you some application points, but we want you to know, hey, this isn't the to-do list. This is an option list for you, just something to think through, because we know this could be overwhelming. We've been overwhelming even talking about this episode. Here's a couple things, and I'm just going to read through them pretty quick, is participate together, friend them, and interact. We do interact. We send our kids videos all the time. We go back and forth. It's part of our family language.
Nice.
Monitor all accounts and know their passwords. There's some good apps. There's Bark, Apple Screen Time, Google Family Link. Set and stick to ground rules about the time on the apps. This is a good one.
That might be the hardest one to enforce because, like we talked earlier, it's an addictive thing. And if you're someone who says, all right, 30 minutes a day, you know, we have someone in the office that we've been talking to recently, a mom whose son, he just went around them and disabled went into her phone, disabled the limits on time. She didn't know about it. And then she gets reports during the day and realized my son's been using this for 2 straight hours. It popped up and she goes, he's only supposed to be using for 30, and then had to confront him and said, oh yeah, sorry mom, I went in and disabled that so I could use it longer, you know.
And we all know the kids are smarter than us. They're way smarter with us on this. But I do think, like, one of the things is we took our kids' phone, and we still do for our youngest, is we take their phones away at night and we put them in our room.
Smart. Yeah.
Like, you're going to have to come prat out of my cold sleeping hand before you're going to get it. Replacing is more effective than removing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've done that where, you know, our daughter, she has a cell phone, but it's kind of a dumb phone. It's not an iPhone. It's not anything fancy. But we found even with having this dumb phone, if you want to call it that, she's addicted to the texting. You know, she wants to communicate with her friends through that. I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. I know you spent a lot of time talking to your friends, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to take it away for now, and then we're going to replace it with an activity immediately. Now we're all going to do family game time, or now we're going to go on a walk, or now, like, we replace it with something else. So it's not we're removing it. Now just sit. Like, that's not going to work.
I heard a story recently about families that participate in camp, and they send their kids off to camp where there's no phones allowed and things like that. And so when they leave, they've got this teenager that's, you know, distant and cold, and they're like trying to figure out what happened to that sweet, you know, kid I had. And when they come back from camp, it's like, oh, they're back. And as soon as they get back on the phone, they start drifting into that. Yeah.
That's good. That's really good. The phone isn't the enemy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The phone isn't the enemy. They're not going down without a fight. Boy, that's true. They're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
Your kids aren't you.
Yeah.
I think that's so. Just having empathy.
Right.
That, if nothing else, if this episode, dads, if you're not taking away anything but empathy toward your kid with what's going on, because it is in their world, and this is a tough one, and they're watching you. Our kids will occasionally look at my wife and I go, oh, look at the screenagers. You know, look at the iPad baby over there. And so we can have moments where, like, oh, I think when they're not around, we give each other permission to be on it all we want to at times. But I think they are definitely watching.
In our house, we set a cell phone curfew that we don't stick to nearly as much as we should. But we had set the curfew at like 8 o'clock. Like, all right, after 8 o'clock, we're not going to use the cell phone. But one of the problems with that is, you know, our little kids go to bed right around that time. So they never really see us put them away.
Right.
Which is interesting. Like, we're trying to do the right thing and set that example, but they're not really seeing it because we're still using it during the day when they're around, or, we're texting or calling or whatever. So it's in our hand all the time. And even though we've kind of self-imposed this curfew on our own cell phone, some of our kids don't even see that because they're asleep, So in their mind, we never put it down.
Right. And I think it's having those zones too. Like one of the things we're no phones at dinner. They know.
Oh yeah.
Right.
They know. No phones. Don't be on your phone in the car because that is some powerful phone time. Like we'll take longer trips and we'll let them do it then. But, I will even say this last trip, because one of our sons is just, he's addicted. If anybody, I'm watching him say, okay, here's what we're going to do. And he's older. I'll go, here's what we're going to do. Everybody sit on your iPhone in the car from this part of the trip to this part of the trip. And almost automatically they're talking, they get past the bitter really quick. Like you were talking about, oh, there's my kid back. And I'm thinking, oh, we need to do this more. There's a Chick-fil-A close to our house. And what they do is they provide family boxes. And you put your phone in the box. And if no one gets on their phone during mealtime, they'll give you free ice cream.
Oh,
which I thought, how great is that? And so to me, that's a positive. That's almost like
I would do pretty much anything for ice cream.
I would do it right now.
Yeah,
I would
right
stop this podcast to have a free ice cream.
Chick-fil-A ice cream, even better.
All right, Bobby, what is our bottom line and our pro move of the day? Because we've given people a lot, and I want to narrow it down.
And a lot of it, I think, dads recognize, like, social media is not the world's greatest thing. There are positives to it. And I don't think we necessarily told you that it's bad for the first time. You didn't learn that for the first time today. But I think our bottom line is social media is a communication outlet, and that's good. But you can't afford to let your kids loose on it without input, supervision. You got to have some restraint. You got to be involved. That's our bottom line. And the pro move of the week, this is something we like to have in every single podcast, something you can take away from this, go implement it into your parenting this week. Pro move for this week is ask your kids what they think are the pros and the cons of social media. Maybe they'll surprise you.
That's good.
That is really good. Thanks, you guys.
Yeah.
I'm glad we figured this out for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we solved it all.
Problem solved.
Yeah. People are probably like, what was all that about? I don't know what to do. But hopefully, if you don't, here's some great news. If you go to allprodad.com, there's some great articles and also the show notes of the podcast. We always link a lot of great articles to it that have pro moves throughout. And we just want to encourage you, your kid, you're your kid's dad, to say, I know where they are. I know who they are. I know how they're wired. And so I'm going to help them make a good decision of figuring out how to protect them, but also give them some space and some grace.
And we know you clicked on this episode because you love your kids. You don't want anything to harm them. And social media, whether it's right or wrong, we feel like it kind of can harm our kids. And so be encouraged today that you took a step towards wanting to do what's best for your kids.
Absolutely. And as always, thanks for listening. We'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us for the All Pro Dad podcast. Thanks for listening to the All Pro Dad podcast. All Pro Dad is the fatherhood program of the nonprofit Family First. Along with our motherhood program, iMom, we exist to help you love your family well. Subscribe to our daily email, the All Pro Dad Play of the Day, by going to allprodad.com/subscribe and get daily powerful and practical fatherhood tips in your inbox. The All Pro Dad podcast is hosted by me, Ted Lowe, produced by Bobby Lewis.